Before we begin, there is something I wanted to get out right off the bat. This is a very casual episode, as you can tell by, the way I look, the setting that I'm in. I am at home. I mean, being home is very nice, come to think of it. I got, I'm warm. I got this cardigan or whatever this is, not a fashion expert. I got my tea. I left the spoon inside, a very Russian thing to do. I got this cute little cushion right behind me. You see the quirky, funky lamp in the reflection in the mirror behind me. It's nice being home if you take care of your home and you get some fresh air now and then. So you should try it. Anywho, while you're at home, you can spend time learning and watching YouTube videos. So let me make this worth your time, worth your while. Let's go. I'm going to introduce you to 3 insights. There's 3 things that I know as a language teaching professional, as a language learner, as a linguist and a voice coach, which I in turn want you to use as 3 instruments, as 3 tools that you can come back to throughout your learning process and, succeed and be happy with your progress. You need to ask yourselves questions, some good questions that'll take you to satisfying answers. So, among others, one of the questions should be, what am I trying to get good at? Some of you might say, okay, grammar, okay, vocabulary, I need more. Okay, speaking, I don't really feel comfortable speaking to people unless we're in the classroom. There's all those things, and you need to make sure you're targeting the right stuff so that you're not all over the place. Because, okay, where do I begin? But thing is, I want you to look a little deeper. So there's 2 competencies that you need to develop. What are they? The first one is fluency. Now, when you hear that word, what does it make you think of? Well, if someone is a fluent speaker, they are a good speaker. Yes, but what does that entail? Basically, when you are fluent, your conversation flows, okay? It's swift, it's quite quick, it's easy to follow because there's not a lot of pauses. It just flows like, water in a river. Now, a lot of people consider themselves fluent, but the truth is, fluency does not quite work without the second competency, which is accuracy. Now, what is accuracy? If you're accurate, you are correct. So there's not many mistakes grammatically or lexically in terms of vocabulary that you use. So you don't only sound relaxed and you're not just free in your, in the way you express yourself, but you also do it in a way that's very close to standard English. Whatever that might be, that's a different conversation. We're going to have it. So you want to make sure that you are easy to understand. And for that to happen, you need to minimize the number of mistakes that you make. That's not going to happen overnight. So first and foremost, you need to understand that it's going to take time. You cannot be fluent and inaccurate, because if you just speak and you use words the way you would use them in your mother tongue, in your first language, or one of your other languages, you are basically translating. If it's quick but not easy to follow, at the end of the day, it's not really fluency, I'm afraid. Now, do I want to discourage you? Not at all. By no means, okay? Do you have to be 100% accurate to be understood and to have a meaningful conversation? Absolutely not. Do you have to be perfect? No. Do you have to make no mistakes? No. But do you have to spend time doing that grammar exercise and then using whatever you've learned whilst completing the exercise in a conversation? Absolutely. And this is where I get a little livid and crazy and zealous and like overly energetic when trying to explain it to people. It'll take time for your brain to use what it has been processing over the past couple of days, and it takes a lot of awareness and a lot of presence on your part. It's not going to happen by itself. If you are doing grammar just to do grammar and not apply it in actual real life conversations, you are compromising your success. If you do know that about yourself, if you're doing that, and there's no crazy teacher to sort of push you, get yourself a crazy teacher, honestly. That's of utmost importance. That's the key. Use what you're learning. Use it. Don't just learn it for the sake of learning. So that kind of takes us to the second insight, which is a lot of people assume that just because they're able to use their first language so effectively, they're not going to have any problems learning their second language, which is very untrue, because when you acquire your first language, your brain does all the work for you. And it functions very differently, that brain of yours, when you're a kid. I don't need to explain that to anyone. But thing is, as an adult learner, you may be somewhat slower, yes, but you have the kind of toolbox that a child does not possess. So you have your life experience, you have your context, you have your analytical thinking, and when you use all those things, they really help you progress. But when you assume that things are just going to happen because it's just a language, this is where you're in the wrong. And it is what it is. Learning a language is very similar to getting familiar with the musical instrument, taking up a new sport, learning how to dance. The reason why I'm comparing all of them is because they're all massive systems with lots of tiny parts to them. And you have to be, for you to be in control of all those parts all at the same time, you need to get quite good at it. And for you to get good at it, you need to invest a certain number of hours of work in it. And if you don't do that, well, you're basically, you expect instant results. Like, instant coffee is not as good as non-instant coffee, right? So you are setting yourself up for failure that way, because you end up not getting the results that you want. You grow super frustrated, you get angry at yourself, the course book, the grammar rule, the teacher, what have you, and you don't like yourself, you resent yourself for making mistakes, for not progressing as fast as you were imagining you would. And this is where all those problems of expectations versus reality come in, and you don't want to find yourself in that place. It takes hours, literal hours of work. And if you haven't done the work, the results won't just magically happen. So then we slowly transition to the third insight. It's a kind of a logical transition, because I keep on saying how there's hours and hours of work involved. You really need to invest yourself in it completely, and there's hours and hours of work. There's so much effort. So what kind of work am I referring to? First of all, instruction. You need to be instructed. You need to be guided. You need to be accompanied. Do not try and do it on your own. Do not try to learn a language by yourself. So you need that one person who's going to explain things to you and who will help you navigate those multiple parts of the massive system that we've talked about today. But there's this one instrument. If you do not try it, you're not going to progress as quickly as I imagine you'd like. Now, what do I mean? I am talking about one of my favorite types of pastime, that is reading. What you need to do is you need to read around the hours of instruction, around the hours you spend working on that homework assignment, the kind of reading that you do outside of your classwork and homework, that you do for yourself. Now, what's important is that the books that you read are not too difficult for you to read. Each and every one of you is at their own level, and you need to know what that level is. I'll post a couple of websites for you to go to determine which level you're at. And there's a number of resources that you can turn to get yourselves the right kinds of literature, adapted literature, the kind of literature that has been altered, changed a little bit so that it's easier for you, a language student, to understand. Because, you know, if you were an intermediate student and you're trying to read this original work by Dickens, you are going to hate it. And that's not the point of this exercise, right? So what happens when you read at the right level is you rewire your brain, if you will. So you teach yourself to think in another language. All those things that you've learned in class, you see them repeated over and over again in conversations and descriptions that you encounter in your book. And you kind of get this exposure, this contact with the language outside of all that work that you're doing. So this kind of pastime activity becomes this crucial instrument in rebuilding your perception of language and yourself in that language. And I have a ton of students to confirm that. And why don't you watch this video of Anna telling us what it was like for her and how it very much worked out. So enjoy.
Hey, I used to have a tough relationship with reading books in English. It was hard work for my brain. I I just wanted to enjoy reading, but I couldn't because it wasn't my first language. But Carolina, my English teacher, was so adamant. She's been insisting that I should start reading books in English. So I went on my holidays. I brought a book with me. I brought this book to the beach and I just started to read. So I was reading one page, second, third, and I didn't realize how the story took over me. I just couldn't stop reading, really. I totally forgot it was in English. And because the story was so interesting. So, what can I say?